Good afternoon, all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you all for tuning in. If you can, please, if you are tuning in from YouTube, please hit that like, share, subscribe button, hit the notification button as well. If you can, if you're watching on Rumble right now, please hit that like button, hit the Rumble button. And if you're watching right now live on X, streaming all over the world, please hit that like button, hit the repost button, and then especially share this out to all your friends, especially those in the low information bubble, because this is a fact-based analysis show that tries to inform the masses. So plenty to talk about today. There's a lot going on. But first of all, I say everybody in the comments, good afternoon, 92 Charlie. Same to Joel Ramirez, Hard X Core. You guys are always in here supporting us. Thank you so much. And, you know, there's just a lot of news. First of all, there's a lot from, as you know, tonight there's going to be the mayoral debate. So tonight is the first one. It's going to be on NBC. If you're in New York, you can watch that on Channel 4. If you could watch the streaming anywhere else in the United States or in the world, just get the Peacock network. You could probably check that out on there, and it'll probably pop up somewhere, say the mayoral debate. So this is going to be a good one because this is nationally syndicated, so everyone can see it. And of course, we had Curtis Sleeve on, who this show endorsed enthusiastically. By the way, he was on Tuesday, and he will be in the middle in that debate stage without his red beret. I know there's a lot of people they're still contentious about that, which is ridiculous. He'll be in the middle. To his left will be Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee, and on the right, the disgraced former governor Andrew Cuomo, who's now masquerading as if he's some right winger lately. It's just crazy how politics works, especially since he's got such a storied history, we'll say, with all the misdeeds that he's been up to, has done, and has cost the state and the city. But of course, people rather, forget. They're kind of like, what was that guy, 10-Second Bob from that movie, 50 First Dates? He only remembered every 10 seconds in the movie. So every time you come up to him, hi, my name is Bob. And they say, you bumped your head. What? And then, oh, hey, my name is Bob. So that's the low information voter. Really just needs to get informed. So I was going to break some things down that we found. There's some news yesterday on Mr. Zohran Mamdani. There's a lot going on with that guy. If you are believing these polls, you really need to do some homework. So first I wanted to show you when Zohran Mamdani back in 2020 was running there for the state assembly, he was elected state assemblyman. This is what he had posted on his X. We don't need an investigation of the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and major threat to public safety. What we need is to defund the NYPD. But your deal with New York City mayor uses budget tricks to keep as many cops as possible on the beat. No to fake cuts, defund the police. At that time, the mayor is now someone in his camp, Bill de Blasio. So it's funny now he takes a shot at him as well, and now he's best friends with him. So, but then yesterday, I believe he's on Fox News of all places, and here he is. He gives you a public apology. You got to hear this.
Officers that I spoke to, they don't want a behind closed doors apology. They want a broad public apology for the things that you suggested about them. Will you do that right now?
Absolutely. I'll apologize to police officers right here, because this is the apology that I've been sharing with many rank and file officers. And I apologize because of the fact that I'm looking to work with these officers, and I know that these officers, these men and women who serve in the NYPD, they put their lives on the line every single day. And I will be a mayor that
What changed your mind about it?
I moved to the city when I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
I grew up here. And two of the things that I thought often about was safety and justice. And growing up here, learning about the case of the exonerated five, learning about Sean Bell, learning about Eric Garner, learning about Michael Brown. And then in 2020, the year where all of these tweets are referring to, it was the year when George Floyd was killed. And it felt like safety and justice had never been further apart. And it was actually Eric Adams in 2021 who said that New Yorkers need not choose between these two things. And so one of my focuses was, how do we deliver that justice? And now what I know, having represented 100,000 people in Western Queens, is that to deliver that justice, you have to also deliver that safety. And that means representing the men and women in the NYPD. It means representing the black and brown New Yorkers who've been victims of police brutality. It means representing the Muslim New Yorkers in my district who were surveilled on the basis of their faith.
That's 68%.
Does anyone believe what you just, saw and heard? Do you really think he's genuine, or do you think he's just being the average politician and gives you that, as someone put in the comments, 1,000 words as a word salad and puts it together and there you go? This guy, his rhetoric and his actions show that he is not a guy who's a pro law enforcement / public safety guy. I showed you in the last episode the crime stats of the 114th precinct, which is his district. Okay. Jen Jones here says this guy is such a clown. It's true. You're right, Jen. He is a clown the way he's acting. IMP Fracco says if disingenuous was a person, it'd be Zohran. Sleepy Joe, how about representing crime victims from the revolving door of criminals? Special Hagen, the footage and how he communicates makes me question his sincerity and substance. 92 Charlie, this guy sounds great, but he's such a fraud. You see, this is, everyone in comments, great, by the way. This is what New Yorkers and the world are saying about this guy. He's very disingenuous because, as you know, you just saw what he had said to get elected to state assembly. By the way, again, in the 114th precinct, I believe assaults and rapes are up significantly in this precinct. And, he has not put forth any type of legislation that is trying to curb this or address this. Now, I know he might have lived in Astoria at some point. Now there's questions of, did he live there long enough, or was he really living in his penthouse? So in Manhattan, there's a lot here, but I, for one, question the sincerity of his apology. His actions do not show that his words have any meaning to it when it comes to this subject. Public safety, his whole platform is, hiring civilians. It's just not going, it wouldn't work, and like I said, a lot of what he's saying mirrors what Eric Adams said and did and what Andrew Cuomo has said and done. And it's funny because the very next video I'm going to play references something that Andrew Cuomo was saying about hiring more cops, which also Curtis Lee was said. So let's hear Zohran Mamdani about hiring more cops.
More police officers on the street. And Cuomo, tomorrow night in that debate, he's going to say, I'm going to bring 5,000 more police officers to the street. Will you match that and agree with him on that?
I don't look to Andrew Cuomo for leadership. And
will you put 5,000 more cops on the street?
I've been very clear. I want to keep the number of officers that we have, and I want to make it easier for those officers to do their job. And what that means is that we allow officers to focus on serious crimes. And for all of the focus on the head count, we should focus on the retention crisis. When I started running for mayor, 200 officers were leaving the department every month. Now it's 350. And a lot of them are leaving because there's simply no way they can do their job in what's being asked of them. And to your point,
more.
So forget about taking advice from Cuomo. That's about the only thing I agree with him on. But as far as the retention problem, it's because of that, all of that, which was Eric Adams and Bill de Blasio prior, his mentor and advisor, they're the reason there is the retention problem in the NYPD. His friends in city council and the state legislation, which he's part of, is the reason there's no retention. You know why the retention is low in the police department? There's low morale. You got horrendous, horrible leadership there that is continuing to this day. You have the fact of the economy in New York City. I mean, you got to make like $250,000 to afford an apartment, let alone try to raise a family, because they tax the hell out of you. They destroy you in city taxes. If you live in Westchester, you got to pay the state the extra fees with that. So all of these things, which is a problem, from the party itself is what he's not addressing, because he's going to continue the problem. See right here, the attrition surpasses hiring. In 2024, the NYPD's attrition rate was 8.7%, exceeding number of new recruits and leaving the department understaffed. The head count of sworn officers is at its lowest level since 1990. They don't have 34,000 cops. You keep hearing this magic number. It's a lot less. They actually continue this number, that they push this number, but actually they keep retirees on that number. So if you're retired and you're still on the books because, you have a lot of times on the books accruing right now and you have to stay on the books, they count you as an active cop or whatever rank you are. So there's a lot of fugaziness going on here. And just like anything else, it's always hide the ball, show a different hat. It's all kinds of games there. So the reason people are leaving the job, by the way, nobody wants this job, which is why you have what you have being hired. Oh, and by the way, there's unlicensed psychologists that are keeping people, whether you're connected or not connected to certain people, away from getting this job. Because I find it funny how the New York City Police Department says, we can't hire this guy. He's not qualified to have a gun or a girl. And then this person turns around and goes to a real licensed psychologist in like corrections or the fire department, but they're good for that job. And in corrections, they have to carry a firearm. So how are you saying in the New York City Police Department, this person's not qualified to have a gun and a shield, but then corrections says they're qualified to have a gun and a shield? And yet you're saying that, well, you're an unlicensed psychologist, saying this, and a licensed one with the correction says you're okay. Same city, by the way, New York City. So there's a lot of overlapping problems here. But for what he's saying, this guy is not a public safety guy. And I understand what he's saying, because he's saying attrition and retention. The plan should be, do you need to hire cops? You always do because of the attrition. But you need to hire more civilians because there's a lot of cops hiding in these administrative roles due to leadership that a lieutenant likes to have a male lieutenant. The admin lieutenant priest loves to have two females in his office. I wonder why. There's other positions too, other than like a domestic violence officer, which, by the way, they wear two hats. They go in the street and they also have to handle domestic violence things. There's a lot of positions that don't do anything. The traffic stat officer, you don't need him or her. What is that? Traffic stat. What's what is that other one they have? The analysis in there, like ComStat analysis. Like what is that? An officer to do that? This is all paperwork, administrative positions for civilians. That cop could be in the street. Like that's what is supposed to be happening. So that problem needs to be addressed also. But I see what he's doing, Zohran. And, there's a lot of word salads here. The only thing I agree with, no, you don't take advice from Andrew Cuomo, but that's why you take the advice from Curtis Lee, because he actually was going to hire even more cops, because I think the number is actually more like 20-something, that 28, 27,000 cops that are really on the books working right now, overall. Not counting the ones that have been, circulating that they're still on the books because they're owed time and all that other stuff. So what I wanted to now say is that all of the stuff you're seeing right now on the show, you don't probably see it when you type it into your search engines like Google or Yahoo. So you should be typing it in on FreeSpoke. And let's play this right now for you all. I know you surf the internet and you search for things on the search engine and you don't get what you're looking for. Well, I have a solution for you, and that's FreeSpoke. FreeSpoke is a search engine that does everything without all the restrictions and all the censorship, and there's no porn ads. FreeSpoke is about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels media bias, no intrusions or data leaks. No porn ads, like I said, unlimited, unbiased AI. Also, deep dive podcasting. You can look it up. Go to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Download the app. You could also use the same link to get 35% off the premium subscription, which would be well worth it. Try it out. freespoke.app.link/Greco. There you have it, folks. Also, it's Greco35. That's the code to get the premium subscription. And if you typed in Zohran Mamdani on FreeSpoke, you'll get a lot of the videos that you're seeing now and stuff that you're not seeing in the mainstream, such as the bigger search engines, as you know. But now, getting back to Zohran Mamdani, now I'm going to show you another part of this guy. Race-based property taxes, okay? He went on Meet the Press. You got to hear this because this is very disturbing.
We went on your website and realized there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed. We've seen time and again that this is a property tax system that is inequitable. It's one that actually Eric Adams ran on saying that he would change in the first 100 days. He's since sought to defend it and lost at every juncture in court.
And I understand you're saying we're simply describing the types of neighborhoods that would see these increase in taxes. And yet by invoking race, do you run the risk of potentially alienating key constituents?
I think I'm just naming things as they are. And ultimately, the thing that motivates me in this is to create a system of fairness. It is not to work backwards from a racial assessment of neighborhoods or our city. Rather, it's to ensure that we actually have an equal playing field. And right now, what we see with the property tax system is one that is overtaxing a number of New Yorkers and undertaxing others, and an inability of political will to resolve that.
So no plans to change that language on your website?
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and that the use of that language is just an assessment of the neighborhood.
All right.
that is, listen, the idea behind it, he might have some truth behind it. Property taxes on how much someone makes, but saying it's the white neighborhoods, so the Caucasians are the evil white man is the problem. I mean, this is race-based politics, and that's what's driven, his whole ideology as far as what he's saying, to run for mayor. How the hell do you say you're gonna tax people, white neighborhoods? Oh, that's what. Oh, you're gonna take this off? No, that's how it's labeled right now. So he's specifically saying, "Hey, you," and this is funny because it is a strong, little segment of the Jewish community that somehow support this guy. He's going to be taxing that community. That's what he's saying. That's part of the community. There's going to be other people. What about Hispanic people? Now, Hispanics, they might be Hispanics, but they're white, I guess, right? There's white Hispanics, so you want to call them that. Is that you're going to tax them too? What? I mean, this guy, you can't say that. I didn't see this when it originally happened. I saw this yesterday, and I couldn't believe I heard race-based property taxes. Now, look, like I said, there's issues as far as the taxes go, tax bracket, but it's not done based on your race. This is segregation. This guy is trying to say we need to divide people based on race. And how is anybody taking this guy even serious for saying that? And he had a chance to correct that, and he did not. And that thing is the problem. That is the problem. 1804 Bank says nobody can take this guy serious. Here's one better. IMP Franco says this guy comes here less than a decade and has the answers to all society's woes. Beware the Greeks bearing gifts. His ideology. His ideology. Speaking of that, it's quite disturbing if this is how he really thinks. I don't know what to say else than I can't believe what I just saw. I never thought I'd see a politician that you're trying to take serious. I mean, remember, this guy is the leading candidate right now, as allegedly in polls. You know, he's the leading Democrat candidate for mayor. He's the nominee, and he just says we're going to tax people based on the color of their skin. I mean, Martin Luther King would be rolling around in his grave right now. Probably is, hearing this kind of stuff. I mean, and look, I mean, you can say a lot about Eric Adams, who he himself is a race-based guy, and you know, he says all kinds of crazy things. But I don't think he's ever said we're going to tax people because they're in a white neighborhood. This is wow. Well, just to show you how more disingenuous this guy can be, is another video of this is him talking about the president. You know, he's big and tough. I'm going to fight Trump, blah, 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 all this stuff. He's screaming at his base. He was at a rally the other night with Tish James screaming about it. Here he is talking about the president.
You know, I want to take this moment because you spoke about President Trump, and he may be watching right now, and I just want to speak directly to the president, which is that I will not be a mayor like Mayor Adams, who will call you to figure out how to stay out of jail. I won't be a disgraced governor like Andrew Cuomo, who will call you to ask how to win this election. I can do those things on my own. I will, however, be a mayor who is ready to speak at any time to lower the cost of living. That's the way that I'm going to lead this city. That's the partnership I want to build, not only with Washington, D.C., but anyone across this country. You know, I want to take.
And it's funny because he says that he's going to make the city Trump-proof. Now he's saying, "Oh no, we could save money with the city." And here's the bottom line: you know, this guy is just talking out of both sides of his mouth. You know, I hate when people do this. I mean, I don't know him personally. I don't know if he's personally like this in his personal life, but you can't like be one way and then say another thing. This is the Eric Adams strategy. Eric Adams does this. Cuomo does this too. He's trying to throw an olive branch to the president because he knows that if he was to be elected, it would be a rocky relationship. But more so for the fact that he has received foreign donations. And because he received foreign donations, he is now in line for a possible investigation / indictment in his future. Because if you remember, Eric Adams was charged with taking money. He took a lot more, took about $10 million in bribes, right? Ends up being $100 million in straw donor and old campaign. And there's more because he did it again. He kept doing it. So I understand that Eric Adams took a ton of money. But he was indicted. He was investigated and indicted. If it wasn't for Trump, this guy would be in a cell right now where that's where he really belongs. And a slew of guys underneath him, in and around him, were involved in his shady business. But if you're going to say we have to prosecute Eric Adams because he took money, whatever, $10 million in his bribes and all this stuff. No, it wasn't an upgrade on Turkish Airlines. No. That is a lie. And by the way, Eric Adams was investigated starting in 2017. So it was a culmination of years of them. This guy just wouldn't stop doing what he's doing. But Zohran Mamdani has about 150, 170 donations from foreign countries. This is anything from a huge fine to being prosecuted. And it leans more towards prosecution. Why? To get a donation from a foreign entity, there's a lot of steps you'd have to take, but technically it is illegal in this election, taking money for a mayoral campaign. I don't know how he escapes this. See, right here it says among roughly 54,000 contributions, at least 170 originated overseas. Of these, 88 donations totaling 7,190 have been returned despite the campaign have not been returned despite the campaign promising compliance with finance regulations. So he still hasn't returned in this money. Whether he does it, it doesn't matter if you return it. Once you accept it, that's already the crime. You can't like, oh, let me take your money and then go, oh, I'm going to give it back to you once I spend it. Because Eric Adams, his problem was he said he had spent it. But he took the money. So him being nice should not be viewed as him even trying to give an olive branches. He's trying to say, look, please don't send away to the federal government my way. Because this guy could get elected and get indicted a month or two after he's in office because he took foreign money. That is a felony. People should realize that. So he's coming in wounded, folks. If you vote for Cuomo or Mamdani, is the same person. You vote for Cuomo, you're voting for Mamdani. If you vote for Mamdani, just remember, he's more than likely, if he wins, getting indicted. He can get indicted even if he doesn't win because he took foreign money and he's not giving it back. So something's going on there. And that is a big problem. And if everybody had a problem with Eric Adams doing it, rightfully so, because he's a criminal, well, Mamdani's doing the same thing. And now that's a problem. Mamdani should be prosecuted in the same way you prosecuted Eric Adams. It's not one rule for one, another rule for others. It's one rule for everyone. Equal justice, right? So that's what I believe is going on there. People are not talking about that, but the foreign donation, it's a big, big problem. That's a huge crime. And I don't know how they're not going to be going after Zohran Mamdani at some point. So keep that in mind, not only tonight for the mayoral debate, but also in the election in 3 weeks. But to top it all off, I believe there's another video of him. He's trying to make his campaign, I believe, about lifestyle, right? So he goes on, I believe he's doing this. You could watch this. I really don't know what he's doing with this stuff.
So what's your take? In each neighborhood, we should have a sports club and they should all compete in a yearly tournament.
I 100% agree. In fact, I agree so much that we're going to host a borough versus borough soccer tournament. We're partnering with NYC Footy to bring you the Cost of Living Classic this Sunday, October 19th at Maimonides Park in Coney Island. But I have to apologize because the price to participate is absolutely nothing. It's zero, it's zilch, it's nada. So grab your friends, summon your borough pride, and get ready to play. Or just come watch the games. Registration is live now, and you can find all the details at zohranfornyc.com/COL Classic. See you on Sunday.
It's not free. He actually had to pay for that. Somebody paid for that. Nothing is free. Maimonides Park, that's next door to 60th Precinct. I work there. But he's making his campaign about like it's like a social experiment. It's about lifestyle stuff. There's nothing. Where's the substance? Kind of like I just showed you what he was saying. Remember, he's talking about taxing white people more than anyone else because he says their neighborhoods are not taxed. Property taxes aren't being applied correctly. He might have a point on what is being taxed, but you can't say it's based on your race. That just that shows that this guy has no knowledge or skills as a politician. And this is what I keep telling you guys. The guy, if he was to get elected, is an activist. He's not really a politician. If you see, and we're going to show you later, the stuff that he put forth in the assembly, he's an absentee assemblyman. He's an empty suit. He needs to get freshened up real quick about how politics work. If you actually look at his record, it's atrocious. You know, his record is atrocious. And we don't even want to bring up Cuomo, but since you had Cuomo up, let's see what Andrew Cuomo is up to.
Andrew, New Yorkers want a mayor who will make groceries and childcare affordable, not sell us out to their billionaire donors.
A mayor that'll make buses fast and free. Not defund the MTA.
Andrew, you're scheming with Donald Trump.
We're voting you off the island
And back to the suburbs.
We're with Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. He'll stand up to Trump, freeze the rent, and deliver universal childcare.
We're going to build a city where no one has to struggle to survive.
Paid for by Zohran for NYC.
Yeah. The only thing that's truthful is that Cuomo's somehow talking to Trump. Everything else there, by the way, he's not standing up to Trump. You just heard that he's now trying to extend an olive branch. Please don't indict me. Do I need to rest the case here? You will really vote for your own demise if you go down that route. 1804 banks. Where's public safety at? Exactly. Public safety. Two people have emerged as candidates for police commissioner under a Zohran Mamdani, by the way. And this came out, I believe, yesterday. It was in the Daily News. And it's we have Rodney Harrison, who I told you about weeks ago. This guy's been lining up to become the next police commissioner. He was a Suffolk County commissioner. And then Isa Abbasi, who was in the NYPD. They both retired the last couple of years. And they are the two main candidates for this. Here's something you don't know that I understand, that Jessica Tisch, who's the current police commissioner, and he said that Mamdani said he might keep Jessica Tisch. Allegedly, she's packing stuff out of that office, apparently. This is alleged out of One Police Plaza. So you may still get a police commissioner, Kaz Daughtry. So maybe a certain disgraced chief might get his way after all. Who knows? But that's the latest out of One Police Plaza. But so in this, it said, in the article, just a little bit of it, that Mamdani said he was considering Tisch at the helm. But then he says, as soon as I have any personal commitments, I'll be sure to let you know. PR professional Ken Friedman, citing sources, said on the POTUS Sirius XM political talk show earlier this week that he didn't expect Mamdani to keep Tisch on, though, which is why maybe she's taking things out of the office. Of course, you know that Rodney Harrison was in charge of Suffolk County Police as the commissioner, who left, and then he was the chief of department of the NYPD. And he's been a guy who I believe endorsed Mamdani. Abbasi is currently the New Jersey's public safety monitor, overseeing troubled police departments in the state. He didn't want to comment on this either. I have no comment really to anything that's going on in New York. So a lot of these, guys, like both of them have 26 years in the police department. And when Abbasi left in 2023, he was the chief of strategic initiatives. He was handpicked by the New Jersey State Attorney for the New Jersey State Attorney General's office to serve as the independent officer in charge of the Patterson Police Department. And, of course, that place has been a mess. So those are the two guys you're hearing that if Mamdani were to win, would be the police commissioner or involved. But Rodney Harrison had some, harassment charges and whatever allegations thrown on him. So I don't know if he's really a viable candidate for police commissioner. Maybe a deputy mayor, who knows? But that will come back around. That's just in case Mamdani wins. But of course, if you follow the show and you watch what you just saw, you really need to make an informed decision on a guy who's, I don't think he's cut out for this job. I'm going to be straight up forward. I think he still needs years. He needs to be in the assembly and actually start to produce bills. And even if he's a liberal, there are liberals who present bills and actually know what they're talking about. Even though you may not like their rhetoric, they are very knowledgeable what they do. This guy is just, and he's an absentee assemblyman to boot. We saw this already with Bill de Blasio. He was a public advocate, which is a far smaller position, and he was nowhere to be found when he was a public advocate. And then he became mayor and did the same thing. And people had problems with him. Right? Everyone was upset at him. But this guy is of the same mold. So you're going to see the same thing if he gets elected. Sorry to tell you that. There's nothing that is in his behavior that is changing that way of thinking if you think there's going to be something different. Moving along to something else that has to fall in line with this, and this comes out of the Amsterdam News. This is written by Tandy Lau. NYPD's controversial strategic response group, leashed as police brutality settlement, goes into effect. Now, if you guys don't know, Tish James, the ACLU, they came up with the settlement agreement in 2023, and Eric Adams signed this. He agreed with this, along with, at the time, another Mr. Wonderful, the former police commissioner Eddie Caban. Both of them might have been, getting a little tipsy at con sofrito together, and maybe they didn't even realize what the hell they signed on to. So there's now 3 tiers to how protest happens, because they were saying that SRG was a little too handsy. I mean, you can see here in this article, the NYCLU senior staff attorney Veronica Salama, this is what she said: we should not see any SRG officers unless there is a tier 3 protest. Remember, now there's different tiers of how they describe a protest will be. And for a protest to reach tier 3, that has to be authorized by an incident commander. It has to be triggered by a set of limited circumstances. And even then, when we see SRG deployed, we should be seeing targeted law enforcement activity and not broad swaths of enforcement activity against all protesters. And this was because of this class action lawsuit, Payne versus de Blasio in the city, and then Legal Aid Society jumped in. The New York Civil Liberties Union jumped in. Tish James, who, by the way, is getting indicted or has been indicted, and they all agreed to this, and the NYPD, but the PBA kind of fought this, or they threw some legal challenges, but ultimately you couldn't slow this down. This was going to come into effect, and they actually awarded the plaintiffs $500,000, up to $500,000. The plaintiffs in this case, and this is what this brought under Payne, which is that the settlement, the lawsuit. I knew a new senior NYPD role with the rank of at least deputy chief was created to oversee the department's protest response and document how police handled each demonstration. According to NYCLU, the department filled the position. The tiered system is the centerpiece of the settlement, barring large police responses during First Amendment activity unless public safety concerns persist despite de-escalation attempts. So this is why when everyone complains about you're seeing these pro-Palestinian protests, whatever, these guys jumping in, trying to get in front of a place, banging on windows, and you see that cops, they're not forming the right lines. You don't see a large response. This is why. Disagreement. Another gift from Eric Adams, by the way. And Mamdani, if you remember, who wants to disband SRG. Essentially, this lawsuit has cut off SRG. That's what it's done. That's what it's done. So SRG is slowly being diminished. Even if SRG is phased out completely, that agreement stays. So it doesn't matter if another group comes out. You could call them Mamdani's warriors. They are going to be part of this lawsuit no matter what. So if you have a large response, a large gathering, it has to go through these 3 tiers before you get the response you're supposed to get. So congratulations. You could thank Eric Adams for that wonderful settlement. And I don't think he took any advice from anyone. He just waited and said, yeah, well, the lawyer or whatever, they said I have to agree with this. That was one of his answers at the time. I mean, Rob Luke Cashier says SRG is the only unit trained to control crowds and the equipment. So if you were to disband them and come up with some other name, whatever this guy wants to do, again, they still fall under this agreement. It doesn't matter what you name the group. So how are we? You're not going to see a large response like you did in the past ever again. It has to come to this 3-tier system. And on top of it, I want to throw out there that when I was still in the NYPD, under de Blasio in 2020, they got rid of mounted being at these protests and using the horses. The reason they had mounted and the horses in the front is if you see the horses, they don't come at you, but they start, you see the horse rise. That's how you back away huge swaths of people. These rioters will say, don't want to get stampeded by a horse, right? And they used to come out and be the whole first line. And de Blasio was the one that said, no more mounted at protest, and Eric Adams has continued that. With mounted there, you probably needed less people or less personnel. Without mounted, you're going to need more personnel, because who's going to back away large swaths of people other than a horse? So that was another beauty by Bill de Blasio. And by the way, that's Zohran Mamdani's mentor, just so you know. So last on the agenda here would be something that popped up with John Scola. And John Scola has this lawsuit going, and I posted this because I got sent this morning. In an interesting class action lawsuit filed by John Scola on behalf of several NYPD officers, they claim the NYPD promotes employees based on race rather than equal opportunity standards, aka merit. NYC has been mired with this allegation under Eric Adams' entire mayoralty. So that one is got about 20 or 30 cops now signed up in a class action suit. If you are someone that was like that letter stated that I screenshotted for you all from John Scola, if you were hired or around after October 22nd, 2022, I believe is the date, give John a call and you could jump on this. If you could prove that you are being skipped over because of this. Now, I think there's also a lot of other things that add to it to make it even far worse. Again, to say it's someone's race, you might have a point, but I think it's more of, are you connected to certain people? Because see right here, it says any black or Hispanic NYPD member of service who has held the rank of police officer at any time between October 14th, 2022 and the present is eligible to join the class. All they need to do is complete and return the attached consent to sue form. Only I received the form. They will be officially included in the class action. And it says a city's two-track promotional structure, right? It creates a racially discriminatory system where black and Hispanic officers are systematically denied equal employment opportunities for advancement. And to his point, you know, I think there is evidence to suggest that. There's also even larger evidence to suggest that if you're not part of the little ring, we'll say, right? So if you weren't a member of the Consofrito team and you weren't part of the Madrid Monsters team and you weren't bowing down to Eric Adams himself, or you weren't fluffing around Kaz Daughtry, you couldn't get promoted either. And that's kind of the theme of who's in the inner circle, who's not. And that's how things roll. Or the allegation of you needed a booster bag to get promoted. A lot of those allegations flying out of the nightclub extortion racket. And there's plenty of evidence of things that may have occurred. So, again, there's even more to this than this allegation of just it being race. It's also, who the hell do you know? Because and if you are part of this, you should fill this out. And if you could actually, you know about anything in regards to this booster bag and I'm getting promoted because I'm dancing with felons and Consofrito, whatever the hell these guys were doing, this is your chance. Don't sit there and remain quiet, because that's what they want. They want you to, they browbeat you and bully you. If you speak, we're going to destroy your life. Your life is going to get destroyed if you stay quiet. It's better to, go down fighting if you are going to go down, which you won't, but go down fighting than go down on your knees believing the system, the NYPD. We're going to destroy you. Don't talk. You can't say this and that. Yeah, but if I was hanging out with those clowns, I would be a detective first grade, right? Or you could get promoted 8 ranks. One guy did that. He made it all the way to deputy mayor with a brutal record that no one else could have ever got promoted. But hey, nepotism and cronyism, that's the name of the game there. And Sheriff of YouTube says, in the end, only the taxpayers will pay the claims. That's something that You know, Curtis Leawood talks about qualified immunity, and he's right, because police officers need it, especially when you take actions in the street, because qualified immunity is how New York State and City are paying $61 million so far in legal fees and settlements for the disgraced former governor of New York State, Andrew Cuomo. That's what did it, the qualified immunity. And Curtis Leawood says, I'm going to take my qualified immunity away as mayor if you're not going to give it to the cops. And neither will people in my staff. That is an honorable thing to do, because that should come back. You need qualified immunity. Otherwise, why would you even take that job? Imagine you're a cop, you make an arrest. Oh, I'm going to sue him out to qualified immunity. We got to discuss this. You know, that could happen to you, which is why, again, why attrition and all that's going on in the police department. Retention is tough when you make the rules so stringent that it's just narrow, right? So you have this problem with a qualified immunity. On the other side, I say, if you're an executive like the soccer mom and you agree with terminating people of a drug screening test, even though lawsuits are already proven that that drug screening test is illegal. It's been for 20 years. You can't even, that drug test is not scientifically proven. It is, you cannot say with 100% someone has marijuana in their system, because they can't say if cocaine's in their system. Their own testing, their own company said this, and it's proven in court. And you still want to terminate people like Frankie Palaguacci, right? Then soccer mom should be held personally responsible for being so naive to say, I'm going to ignore what a federal court said because my police department overrules all of that. And that's kind of the attitude that this police department has. So there's a lot of things that should change. And I would say qualified immunity for their records or the way they do things as executives, that should be stripped. You make a decision like that, you should be held accountable personally. See right there? While the NYPD has stated its policies are being reviewed in light of recent state laws concerning marijuana, its hair testing protocols have been challenged for potentially failing to distinguish between on-duty and off-duty use, as well as other scientific procedural concerns. No. The test needs to be abolished. You need to hire everyone you ever fired in the last 22 years back and say, I'm sorry, and pay them. You know why? Because what you did was illegal. You went on a test that's not valid. It's not valid. It's scientifically proven it's not valid. So if you fire Frankie, soccer mom and company, you will need to be held personally liable. I know you got a lot of money. I don't know if you want to just hand it out like candy. You and whoever else makes this decision, like the chief surgeon, the surgeon, the doctor that was there doesn't even know what the hell the procedures are in the police department. What kind of a clown outfit are you running there? And this has gone on for a while. So these are things that I believe as a Curtis Leawood administration kind of would get, we'll get around to trying to fix this. If Mamdani takes off, it's just going to be the same thing, because nobody really cares. They're just going to be worried about who's on television. It's going to be the same thing. But with Curtis, you have a very good chance of altering and changing a lot of these things that are, they're not fair. It's not fair. They're illegal. These are illegal practices, and something needs to be done. And if you make that decision, you should be held accountable personally. Forget about qualified immunity for you making an abrupt decision against the federal court. I can't believe when we're talking about that. Frankie Palaguacci's in the chat. Know what he says? Bring back due process. Doesn't exist in the police department. Eric Sanders says, yes, indeed. So I guess with that, let me bring on, out of touch PC 92 Charlie. You're right. She's the soccer mom. Let's bring on Jack doing a producer's take. I know you heard a lot there, but I always get fired up with that drug testing thing. I don't know what else to say. It's ridiculous. You're going to fire people for a test that's been proven it's not scientifically valid. Let's do it anyway. The hell with the courts, Jack.
No, it's totally ridiculous. I don't understand how you even have the nerve to show up in a courtroom without any evidence, but I guess that's the NYPD's MO, so I can't be surprised about this. But anyway, I mean, we've talked a whole lot about Zohran Mamdani today, and he's going to be getting on the debate stage with Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo tonight. So let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into his assembly track record, some of the bills he passed. He did issue a very candid and honest, at least so it seemed, apology to police officers. But what types of legislation is he passing in the assembly, or what is he supporting, better put, when he's a lawmaker up there? So back in January 28th of 2025, and here's his name, just to point that out as well. So he was on this, as was Micah Lasher over here, who's going to be running for Congressional District 12. They both supported Bill A03506, which prohibits and regulates the discovery and disclosure of immigration status. And more importantly, this is the important part, prohibits police officers, peace officers, school resource officers, probation agencies, state entities, state employees, and municipal corporations from questioning individuals regarding their citizenship or immigration status, regulates the disclosure of information relating to immigration status. So kind of in shorter terms, what this does is this inhibits police officers' rights to talk to people about their immigration status, to collaborate with other law enforcement agencies in terms of trying to get illegals, which is a big problem in New York City because migrant gangs are causing a lot of mayhem right now. And they've kind of realized they have an open invitation to come into town and do whatever they want with the current state of affairs. Eric Adams, the district attorneys, the police department, having their hands tied, not being able to convict criminals. So this is going to be a big problem, right? And I also would like to point out that this bill specifically, while it had majority support from the Democrats, it had 68 sponsors, all of them Democrats, not a surprise, right? None of the 48 Republicans were willing to put their name on this bill. It had Democratic majority support. 2/3 of the Democrats want this bill to be passed, but less than half of members of the assembly want this bill to be passed. And that includes Democrats and also Republicans. So this is another very progressive piece of legislation that Mamdani put out there. And if he becomes mayor, expect him to try and move this up the food chain as well, because as mayor, he has a lot of power over the assembly, and he's going to lobby for these types of bills to be passed. So if you thought New York City was too restrictive on courting the illegals who are there, who are causing mayhem and committing crimes, wait till you see what's about to come, because Mamdani was fully behind this legislation.
Yeah. Eric Sanders says, well, police officers don't need apologies. They need the support and tools to effectively carry out their duties. That's 100% correct. But that bill, once again, I mean, you could tell this guy is not a pro law enforcement kind of guy or law and order. He's kind of letting it, lay out in the wind, so to speak. It's out in the wind with this guy. So, I mean, this bill shows, and this is a bill that he actually co-sponsored. He doesn't co-sponsor much. He doesn't do much of anything. So when he does do something, you need to read it. And this is, people could go on the website and read what he has sponsored, because it's very little. And this right here is another, definitely a progressive bill.
This is the funniest part too, by the way. This bill was drafted by the Housing and Urban Affairs Committee. He's not even on that committee. Yeah. So in other words, he tried to loop himself in with the other groups that were lobbying for this legislation. He put his name on it, and he didn't really do anything. That is analogous in nature to doing nothing on the group project and still expecting to enjoy that A+. I don't like it.
No, I could see, listen, he has all the makings to be a mayor that was far worse than even Bill de Blasio. Like, he won't be, he seems to be enamored with, I'm the mayor, kind of like someone else that was the swagger man. This guy's going to have his own, like, it's the same thing, because his actions as an assemblyman prove his track record is he's barely there. He's barely voting on anything, barely putting any bills forward. He does nothing for his own community, his own district. How the hell do you think he's going to be a mayor? He needs a lot of seasoning. He's clearly, I understand he's a young guy. You know who else started at his age at 29? Joe Biden. Joe Biden started at 29 when he was elected into, I believe it was the Senate in Delaware. And look what happened there. 60 plus years, and the guy was not in politics for only 4 out of those 60 years. Because he wasn't the vice president when he left and Trump was elected the first time. That is your future under this guy if he's going to be in politics for that long. But at least Joe Biden was a lawyer. I don't know what this guy, other than being he's a rich kid. He comes from a rich family, and I think he doesn't really understand how things work in politics. And that's the bottom line. It's not anything against him personally. It's kind of like me saying, okay, Jack, today you're going to start a new job. You're going to be a plumber. I know you have absolutely no idea how to do anything, but here's a wrench and go figure it out. And that's kind of what you have with this guy. Now he's been at it for a few years, and you're still like, all right, well, when is this guy going to get it? When is he going to get it? When is he going to get it? And you're like, I don't think he's ever gotten it. And, someone's track record will prove, Jack, that nobody just changes overnight. He's had at least 4 years in the assembly, and there's been no change. And I don't think there's going to be a change as mayor. I just think he's going to be the same way.
It's funny that you bring up the analogy to Joe Biden, because Joe Biden's political ascension was very similar. He was not in any sort of assembly or anything like that. He was on the Newcastle County City Council in Delaware. And then he went from that job, 2 years in that position, to being a U.S. senator representing the state. I don't think we've seen an ascension like that in American politics in a long time. Maybe Mamdani's is comparable, representing a small district in Western Queens with a low number of constituents, only 4 years in the assembly, not an active politician. He's like an inactive cop. If you saw a cop with 5 arrests in 4 years get promoted to the next rank, you'd be looking at him like, wait a minute, you didn't do the job that you were hired to do. How are you getting promoted to the next one? Same thing for Mamdani. What I'm looking for from the candidates tonight on the debate stage, though, don't talk about the guy's inexperience or him being unpopular amongst Republicans or independents or communism, any of that nonsense. Hammer him on his legislation. Talk about his bills, the political correctness in the educational system. I saw he made an announcement the other day, too, about wanting to fund curriculum in CUNY so he can hire teachers right out of college and brainwash them with his curriculum ideas so they can teach our students. I saw that's part of it. So, hammer him about his educational shortcomings, his inability to execute his public safety plan, because he's talking about all these things about retaining cops and helping them do their jobs. If cops can't confront criminals who are committing crimes because they're illegal immigrants, how is that helping them do their job? You need to be confronting him about the nooks and crannies of his bills, because they don't make any sense. And if he ends up passing legislation like this to the city council in Albany, it's going to really endanger the city's residents. These are the things that people need to be discussing. Hold it against us that we're more substance over style guys, but the performative theatrics and criticizing him has really reached a breaking point for me. I've had enough.
Yeah, I mean, Hard X Core says, at the end of the day, we are all raging out, but the majority seem to want Mamdani and the misery it will ensue. Can't argue with these zombie voters. Now, I gotta say this. There was a story put out, but look, you know how I feel about this guy, viral news. We've had our problems in the past, but he did say something about Curtis Lewa, and that there's polls out there that there's mainstream people, know, and it's far closer. And in fact, there's polls where Curtis Lewa is slightly ahead. Okay. He went to Greenpoint, which is notoriously in Brooklyn. This is not an area for a Republican. Greenpoint's a lot of hipsters, and he was this is how it was told, and there's footage of this, mobbed. Everyone in his neighborhood was saying, just walking by, I'm voting for you, Curtis. I'm voting for you, Curtis. These are hipsters. They aren't particularly fond of Mamdani because, again, you can't campaign in your little strong areas and think you're going to win. This is the Mamdani is campaigning like Hillary Clinton was in 2016 and almost campaigning like he's Joe Biden in 2020. That's the difference between all these three guys. And you know who's campaigning like this Trump is Curtis Lewa. So He's been to all the neighborhoods. Some people in here, oh, well, Curtis Lee, well, I haven't seen him. He's been everywhere. He's been in the Bronx. He's been in Harlem. He's been in all your neighborhoods, all the African-American dominated areas. He's been there. Where the Asians are, they love him. Where the Italians are, they love him. The big red, Staten Island, he's been there. In Manhattan, though, this is an animal all to itself. It's going to vote for Mamdani regardless, Manhattan. You'll get some, people here and there, but Manhattan, the number one thing in all these mayoral elections for many years now, the outer boroughs are completely ignored. And Curtis is very popular in the outer boroughs. In all these areas that you would think, it can't be. Go to Brownsville. They love Curtis in Brownsville, I hate to say people in here go, oh, it's true. He's got 11 campaign offices. The guy is everywhere, and the other two are not. You can't campaign with, Mamdani sitting there thinking he was coronated king already. That was the mistake of Hillary Clinton. And I'm telling you, there's polls. We've seen them, and they're legit. They're done the right way, not the way these people slanted. We're going to have, the low information, like a certain someone in this chat that, why is he in this person in the chat? That person, there's a slew of people like that have no business being polled because it's all fake. The real polls show what's really going on.
And this is a tweet from a very reputable pollster in New York City, Adam Carlson, who lives in Bay Ridge. And look at this anecdote that he dropped out there. We've had a number of conversations about Sliwa's chances of winning the election. He thinks that Sliwa is going to be over polling, which he probably will. But he said, I went into the Sliwa campaign's Bay Ridge field office today, pretended I was a supporter. I asked the volunteers if they're seeing any presence from Cuomo campaign in the area. They said zero. To be expected, right? Because Curtis Sliwa is the only candidate in this election who's actually going to all of the individual neighborhoods. If you see Mamdani or Cuomo in a neighborhood, well, it's because they have a reason to be there. They're either trying to earn the constituency base, there was an incident that took place there that they're trying to capitalize on, or they have donors in the community who are trying to get the message out about them. It's probably one of those three things, right? But Sliwa is actually getting on the subway. He's taking express buses to Staten Island. He's setting up lunches with residents of the community who have no skin in the game in terms of even donating to his campaign. So he's the only really genuine candidate in this race at this point in time. And just to make a PSA to all the young people watching today, make it cool to vote for Curtis Sliwa the same way that it's cool to vote for Zohran Mamdani. You see all these lifestyle events and trick-or-treat type things, whatever it may be, scavenger hunts. That's the better term that I was looking for. Do fun things around Curtis Sliwa. Get hot chicks to wear hot chicks for Sliwa shirts. Do scavenger hunts, trivia nights about his political history, whatever it takes at this point. But the problem is the younger demographic from the Midwest and other regions is not being reached. Mamdani, for better or worse, has done a fantastic job connecting with the younger generation, capitalizing on their frustration, and speaking to them. Sliwa's done a fantastic job speaking to them, but where he's fallen short is garnering the support from those younger voters. That's something he's going to need between now and November 4th.
Yeah, also, though, younger voters are, they don't always vote. That's the other problem. So, yeah, let's be honest. Younger voters tend to, yeah. And that's why those polls that many are citing with likely voters doesn't end up panning out. Just 2 weeks, I give you this. Remember this. When Pataki, I'm going back to the 90s, Governor Pataki was running against Mario Cuomo. This would have been his third term. The polls said 2 days prior to Election Day that Governor Pataki was behind 14%, and he won by 3. Don't throw all your eggs in the polls. The polls is a barometer, if it's done correctly, on where you stand. And remember, you have to sample things, registered voters, and do it demographically evenly. What people are mistaking right now, in New York City, there's probably, I'd say, independent voters registered either on par or slightly behind the entire Republican registry in New York City. Okay? So a lot of things are not being factored in. This is what happened in 2016. And I'm beginning to feel like you might see a repeat of something that you didn't expect, because a lot of people are putting their faith behind these polls. They're funded by billionaires. The billionaires clearly they're not going to factor in this race. They just people are onto this game that they fund all these polls for themselves. See this race right here, and at this time, Mario Cuomo was one of the most revered figures in New York State. He was running for a third consecutive term, and he was up 14 points 48 hours before Election Day, and he lost. So for those who keep citing these polls, there's a lot of history showing that, sometimes the temperature you're taking in the street, what you're seeing internally, it all lines up. So the word on the street and what you're seeing in the street is a groundswell of support for Curtis Sliwa. You don't see the signs for Mamdani. You don't see anything. It's manufactured. So he's going to have the limousine liberals and champagne socialists, as Andrew Cuomo says, but he's not going to have them. He does not have the majority, and you need the majority to win. And a landslide for someone in here who's completely, I don't know, low information, is being too nice to them, doesn't understand anything about politics. So this race is far from over. And if anything, you're going to be very surprised come election night. But tonight's going to be the first debate. So what do we have on tap, Jack?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a debate watch party tonight. TBD on the time. Be sure to stay tuned on our social media channels. We'll be announcing that some point later in the afternoon. But yeah, we're going to be reacting to everything that's said during the debate, offering opinion, insight, analysis, commentary. And yes, Sal, to your point, I hate how people are saying, oh, the election's over, the election's over. I would think that those people are suffering from amnesia, as if they forgot about what happened in June when Mamdani came in with a vengeful force and shocked Cuomo on election night. Most decisions about who people are going to vote for are made in the final couple of weeks. And when you factor in the number of independents and Republicans in New York City that are still on the fence, there's a lot of blood in the water for anyone who can figure out how to figure it out. If people listen to what the candidates are saying and vote logically, they're going to go to Curtis Sliwa, and he's just going to be able to stack up enough votes to win this election. The key is going to be drowning out the outside noise in some way, shape, or form. Don't listen to the people saying, oh, the Republican doesn't have any chance. It's Andrew Cuomo or Zohran Mamdani, because Cuomo already proved that he's going to lose to Mamdani in a head-to-head matchup, and he doesn't have the juice the second time around to win a rematch. This isn't Giants-Cowboys in 2007, where the Cowboys destroyed the Giants the first two times, and then the Giants beat them in the playoffs. This time around, Mamdani would beat Cuomo even worse in a head-to-head matchup, because people have already formed their opinion and they know what the final outcome is going to be. So listen to the candidates, let the chips fall as they may, and yeah, form your evaluations and let the best man win, because this thing, I mean, there's still plenty of time left in this game.
I agree. Sleepy Joe's funny. He says, we're running out of stamina. Rob and Ron with lots of stamina yesterday made it to 3 hours. I'm going to say this. They do a show 1 day a week. They wait 6 days to gather the shrink for 3 hours. Not only was I on Tuesday and had to prepare for all that stuff with Curtis Sliwa, now we're doing another show tonight that's strictly about the debate itself. So it's not about stamina. It's we got to get ready for the next what's coming next. And I think I've hit a lot of topics here, especially with Mamdani, and you really got to make an informed decision. I'm showing you the past, the present, and the future. And again, the polls. You remember what I've been saying. Look, you go back to the presidential election. There were polls saying that Kamala Harris was going to beat Trump. Not only beat Trump. She was supposed to win by a hefty margin as well. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff going on. What ends up happening is he not only won the popular vote, he beat her in all 7 swing states. Okay. But I'm sure the same low information clown in here was saying she was going to win and all that, and all the racist rhetoric that this guy spews. What happened? So again, they want you to believe that Curtis has no chance because they don't want you to go out and vote. Because moderates and independents, that's the class that swings elections all the time. Presidential, local. If they come out in droves, whoever they choose, that's who's going to win. Because when you look at how things line up, your problem on the Democrat side is you have 2 Democrats right now that are running. And that's your problem because they split their own vote. And with that, that leads to what's about to happen with Curtis in there. Because, again, those independents and those moderates are not – if you think Eric Adams leaving, every single person that was voting for him is now going to line up behind Cuomo, look, then you really are low information. Like, you need a lot of help because that's just statistically an implausibility. That will never happen. I know I see some people, right-wingers too. The whole 10% will go here. No, it doesn't. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Okay. So again, you have to do a ton of research on this stuff, and also prior races and things that in a very recent past, Mamdani was behind by 40 points and won within a month or 2 months. And you're seeing it every month, every week. What we know internally, Curtis Sliwa has completely closed this gap on these 2 guys. It was 3, now it's 2. But now it's suddenly changing, and that's what happened. It happened with Trump and Clinton. You could see the same kind of thing happen here. Why? Because everybody is throwing, caution to the wind. It's just whatever Fox News that's it. It's Curtis has to lose. That's it, because he has. I don't know what he has to leave the race. Yet he's the guy with all the momentum, all the money, all the signs point towards him. He's got to sign because the rich guy wants Cuomo, not Mamdani with Cuomo.
Fox News advertised itself as a conservative media network. Yet on their morning show, Fox and Friends, which has millions of viewers, the one time they were able to get President Trump in studio to talk about the New York City mayoral election, they're encouraging everyone out there to go vote for Andrew Cuomo, with President Trump even saying, quote unquote, Sliwa is not exactly big time. How's that for a conservative media network? Encouraging all of their viewers to go vote for a Democrat right out of the great gate. And someone who's a socialist too. Andrew Cuomo invented socialism and implemented it in New York State. And now he's trying to make friends with all the Republicans so they can support another failed campaign and put money in his personal pocket for whatever is next. I don't think so. But in terms of tonight, the pressure is all on Mamdani. He's the front runner, quote unquote, allegedly. We'll see how the polls play themselves out. But he's the front runner. He's the one with all the pressure on him. He's the guy who has to deliver on all these crazy promises. He's doing his media round robin tour on liberal mainstream media stations. He did conservative tour yesterday with Fox News. But I mean, the guy's out there everywhere on every TV screen talking about himself, talking about what he's going to do. He's going to have to answer the tough questions from the moderators and hopefully the other candidates. I'm hoping that Sliwa just pounds him into the ground like we know that he can, because Andrew Cuomo can't debate that guy on his stage without saying his name correct. Like, he called him Mamdani 3 straight times before he finally said it correctly last time. The guy is not a good debater. He's past his prime. He's over the hill. Get him off the stage. I want to see a one-on-one between Sliwa and Mamdani at this point.
Cuomo should just have a show with Dominic Carter. I mean, at this point, Dominic Carter loves him so much, he could do a show with him and John Katz, the disgrace to the Republican Party, John Katz. Hard X Course said his best. A lot of people must have really enjoyed the COVID lockdowns who support Cuomo. Yeah, I think here's another one. Chris Nalina says Cuomo released cop killers, called ICE a bunch of thugs, bragged about closing prisons, was main force behind no cash bail, etc.
Said he was going to hire 5,000 cops as mayor when he wanted to merge the state police with the NYPD during COVID.
Yeah.
De-emphasized public safety, killed people in nursing homes, didn't collaborate with Bill de Blasio, pretty much blackballed him to the point where they had no communication at one point, wasn't even picking up his phone calls. Yeah, sounds like someone who should be mayor of New York City. And everyone's compared this run to going down to the independent league and playing for the Staten Island Ferry Hawks with the hopes that you get back to the Yankees. I don't see that at all. Remember, Cuomo's 67 years old. He's probably not hoping to get back to Albany. He just wants to hold and occupy political office one more time before he's put in a coffin and goes underneath the ground. But this is not the right opportunity because he hasn't lived in New York City in 3 decades and is totally out of touch with not only the residents that live there, but their needs. Curtis Sliwa goes down in the subway practically every day. He goes to all of these neighborhoods. He's a true New Yorker. He founded the Guardian Angels and has been involved in civil advocacy for 5 decades. Andrew Cuomo's lived in Manhattan for 5 minutes. I'm tired of hearing all this rhetoric about how he knows lawmaking and policy. He's failed at all of those things, and now we're going to give him a more important position at probably the city's biggest inflection point over the past decade. I don't see how that logically makes sense, nor does the logic make sense that everyone's saying, oh, he has the best chance of winning. Sliwa doesn't have a chance. It's going to be the commie or Cuomo. No, stop putting that narrative out there that's inherently false. You're going to hurt all of us if Cuomo is the mayor of New York City again. He's not going to help anyone.
I tell you, this is one of my favorite comments here by Fox. These zombies will do the opposite of whatever Trump says. So Trump trashing Sliwa will give Curtis votes. I got to be honest with you, that there is some truth to that statement, especially in New York City. I kept telling people, some people like, why won't Trump endorse Curtis? That is the last thing you want. In fact, Curtis publicly stated long time ago, he does not want that Trump endorsement. You don't want it in New York City. That'll just sink you.
Mamdani was gonna stand up to Trump, or is he gonna be friends with him now? I mean, he changes his tune every 24 hours. So which one is it?
Mamdani, he's worried about getting indicted. That's why he's worried about ended up like his friend Tish James, because he's doing the same kind of things, campaign finance. Just take donations from foreign entities. That's no problem. Hey, the last guy that was here, they indicted him, but they're not going to indict me. I'm telling you. It's Cuomo. Kristen Alina says Cuomo owed the nursing homes for them donating to his campaign. That is why he sent the patients back to the nursing homes to die when the Javits Center was open for them. He also had the boat. I remember the ship on 42nd Street. There was a ship there that was not you. It was 3 people were on it. The ship was sent from the federal government, yet they weren't using it for patients. Yeah, K1 Calendar says this. This is a good one. Yes, I love Donald Trump, but he doesn't give anybody a good endorsement. The last guy he endorsed was basically a neocon. I wanted to get rid of it. He always votes for. I know what you're trying to say. His endorsements are not the kind of people that you fall in line with your America First agenda. He's done that. I mean, Lindsey Graham comes to mind, right? Mm-hmm. Lindsey Graham. So. Again, do you really want this guy's endorsement? I don't know. In New York City, I don't think it's worth your time to have him endorse you as far as mayor goes. Now, the governor, different story. New York State, New York City, I don't know. And again, he doesn't like to lose. That's his main problem. He doesn't like that when Trump endorses someone and he lose. Because remember, his big thing is you're a loser. He says everyone's a loser. Eric Palazzo says, 5 years left working in this city. I cannot wait to hit 20 and get out. And thank God I live on Long Island. This city is a lost cause, and we have zero protection internally. By the way, the mayor of Long Island is Andrew Cuomo, just so you know.
And Eric Adams. He goes out to the Hamptons a whole lot too.
But he's out there all the time in the Hamptons. I think he's there right now.
As Andrew it pertains Cuomo. To Sliwa and Trump, getting Trump's endorsement wouldn't have helped him get more voters on the surface because those that dislike Trump would have immediately been steered away from Sliwa. So I understand that angle of it. But in terms of getting financial contributions and donations, Trump has a hotline to all the bigwigs in real estate and other walks of life in New York City. So it would have helped Sliwa raising money for his campaign, creating ads, all that stuff. When you look at the net impact, it probably would have been neutral in the sense that the balance beam would have evened itself out over time because the donations wouldn't have been able to buy the mayoralty. Just look at the Democratic primary where $25 million was not enough for Andrew Cuomo to beat Zohran Mamdani, who at the time was relatively unknown. So, I mean, it would have been nice for Trump to endorse Lee. What would have helped? It would have improved the image of the Republican Party. I don't know if there's any partisan unity, despite what the mainstream media says anymore. I don't know if there is partisan unity between Republicans or if we're just endorsing our friends regardless of political affiliation. But I mean, it would have been nice for Trump to at least say that I'm supporting the Republican. I like him. I think he can win, because it would have validated his run. Now people are questioning it a little bit more because you have the Republican president not getting behind him. So it did hurt him in that way.
Yeah. Also, like I said, be on the lookout. If the rumor is Kaz Dodry is trying to get behind Cuomo, that's because Eric Adams is more than likely going to come out and endorse him, because you have Frank Carone that's pushing him behind the scenes. Frank Carone, who was about to get indicted, got Eric Adams in a ton of trouble himself, and now he's like, well, now I'm just going to switch teams. I'm on Team Cuomo again, and now you just go and endorse him, and I'm here. Like that's what's being said. And no, and Rico, I don't agree with you. You're saying these college kids are going to vote for Mamdani and all that. There are more people over the age of 20 living in New York City than they are. And you are like saying you think this young vote is going to come out in droves. It has been notorious that these people, it's hit or miss. They either show up to vote or they just go do their own thing. They don't. You don't, that base that he has, you have to have a younger people that's probably in like the 25 to 30 range. But again, there's a lot of seniors that are going to vote and they're scared and they relate to the older candidates that are more in line with what they want versus Mamdani, he's promising you things that is truly, it's not going to be feasible. Free this, free that. You know, we've heard this. I mean, Eric campaigned on the same nonsense. Cuomo did. Look at that ended up. It doesn't work. So if you have the memory of that guy Bob from 50 First Dates, then yeah, you're right. You're gonna in 10 seconds, you forget. But if you are voting with your pocket and with your brain, you're not going to vote for that guy because you've seen this song and dance now it's 16 years straight. Do you want to continue down this path? Because you're going to reach the point of no return. And then there's not going to be, we're going to get a different guy. No, because you're going to be bankrupted. You're going to have so many fiscal issues in New York City. Remember, he's cutting the budget government-wise because they have to, which means the city's going to have to cut budget as well. So this free nonsense is not going to happen. Sorry, because you need to cut budgets. You need to cut things because you can't afford it. You're not getting the government just throwing money at you like that anymore. So what are you going to do? You got to balance your budget. The state has to do the same. So there's a lot of issues, and this guy wants to give away the house. And how are you going to do that? Tell me, someone explain that. All nice. It's again, this is rhetoric every couple of years when the elections come. Free. Oh, vote for me. That's all it is. They're promising you an empty dream. Sorry, it's what it really is.
And why is no one doing research on any of the policies that Mamdani supported when he was assemblyman in Albany before they want to vote for him? They all talk about the good things that he's going to do, but they don't actually do research on his track record in terms of trying to do any of them. And to make a baseball analogy, Mamdani's rise has been like watching a player struggling to get hits in single A get promoted to the major leagues. I just don't understand how someone who struggled to represent a small district in Queens that doesn't understand the nitty-gritty details of writing legislation, that's not exactly a great lobbyist in terms of getting bills passed, how is he going to become mayor of America's biggest city at an inflection point where everyone on the assembly floor from Long Island to Westchester, to Buffalo, to Rochester is looking at him saying, well, wait a minute. If all of the businesses in the state move through New York City, how are you going to be the head honcho in City Hall? That's going to hurt all of us. People are going to be leaving throughout New York State. It's not just going to be New York City because he's going to have a very large influence in Albany and other counties too. And it's clear that he's not willing to find a middle ground with any of the Republicans either because he didn't do it in the assembly. And a lot of people up there are upset about that too because he's not representing all of the constituents like he promised. Remember when he said, I'm going to be the mayor for everyone, whether you voted for me, whether you didn't vote at all? Yeah, I don't think so. That's not how you've behaved in the past. So why are you going to change? The answer is He's a snake oil salesman who's lied since day one, and he's continued to lie. And I'm excited about game 2 of the doubleheader tonight when we get to really rip him apart after what's probably going to be a horrible debate performance as well.
Yeah, I don't know how he's going to debate. Like I said, personally, this guy looks like a nice guy personally, but again, politically speaking, Mamdani is really, he needs a lot of seasoning, and his actions show it. That's all I'm going to, you always never, I mean, making value judgments bad enough, but if you are to judge anyone, never do it on what they say. It's what their actions, what are their actions? If their actions show you what they say, it's one thing. If their actions are showing you something different than what they say, then you need to act accordingly yourself. Questions are the answers. Says only 22% of Democrats came out to vote in the primary. I believe Sliwa can win on a divided Democrat ticket. Republicans need to turn out. You are not counting independents. There are independents there. Fox says receipts. New York Post, September 10, 2021. Maria Cuomo Cole, Andrew Cuomo's sister, chairs the nonprofit Help USA, which had a homeless person stuck in an elevator for 4 days in Randall's Island. Wow. I almost forgot about that one. And Special Hagen says he needs life and professional experience. It's true. I'm telling you, that's just a fact. There's other Democrats that could have been a better candidate, but for whatever reason, this guy came out of nowhere because it was just a disaster who was running, and Eric is a criminal, and Cuomo, another one. He just didn't get indicted, but he's another one that, what do you have to choose from? That's your problem. There's nothing reinvigorating or anything of substance as far as Democratic candidates. Enrico Palazzo keeps saying the city is so backwards, voting for this guy is 100% plausible. Curtis says something. He's going to leave it up to the people. This perception is that, this guy, but that's not what we're seeing in the street. I'm just letting you know that those internal polls in the street is not saying this guy is unbeatable. By the way, even in your fake Fugazi polls, Mamdani never has the majority of the vote. That should be a little scary for those that keep saying, yeah, he's going to win, hands down. How do you win without the majority? You need over 50% to have but other people running in it. But I thought Mamdani's the greatest candidate of all time. You got to stop believing the hype, folks. Listen, I made a comparison the other day online. Back in 2007, going to 2008, the New England Patriots were an undefeated football team. They were saying this was the greatest team of all time. They were even better than the 1972 Dolphins that went undefeated and won the Super Bowl. Then they played the little old New York Football Giants. Had a good defense. They had a quarterback. His name was Eli Manning. And this guy was like, he would almost like cover his eyes and throw a football and hope that somebody caught it. Like, he was not the guy you thought he was going to be when they drafted him. Eli Manning, he wasn't like his brother, Peyton Manning, right? And then this Super Bowl, they make it to the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and it was anything but what you all expected, and many people bet. I know guys that made a fortune betting on the Giants, and nobody saw that coming. Well, some people did. They did. And that catch right there, that is the story of life. This catch changed history forever. This wasn't supposed to happen. You could try this 99 other times and you'll miss this. This guy caught a ball on his helmet, cost the Patriots everything, and the rest is history. And your undefeated, unbeatable Patriots lost. Tom Brady was crying and everything, and the Giants won. But the polls said that they can't. So I don't need to say much more. You have to make an informative decision. Are you going to go with the New England Patriots, or are you going to go with the Giants? Because I see Curtis as the Giants, okay? No matter how this shapes up at the end. It's more than just Republicans. He's the only Republican that can get votes from the other side. There is no other Republican. Any other Republican is Trump. We can't. I hate him. Trump. He's not. He never was. He always was critical of Trump. He does what I do. When he's good, he's great. Let's applaud him, like shake his hand. He's the greatest president of all time for that one moment. When you do something bad, like, that casino in the Bronx. Oh, yeah, all of a sudden they might get that license. That's bad. See, that's what he does. You try to hold your elected officials accountable. There's nothing wrong with that. Even those that you are told by some in the media to worship, which is absolutely ridiculous. So I think we've hit everything that we can for now, because we're going to come back. Time to be announced later on. So check out social media on X, the Sal Greco. Check out the Finest Unfiltered. Check out John D. Macari. We'll have an update on tonight's show. We'll have the mayoral debate, and we're all going to have the watch party. So join us for that. Also in the morning, 8:05 live, the Finest Unfiltered returns with the roundtable, and God knows what they're going to be talking about, because there could be a lot after tonight as well, whatever happens with the debate. And check out, again, yesterday we had the Executive Perspective. You could watch that on Wednesdays, 5:05, 17:05, and the 10-4 Tavern on Tuesdays at 19:05, 7:05. And I'll be back this Tuesday once again at 1:05 Eastern, 13:05 Eastern, and I'll put out who I'm going to have. I'm just got to clarify. I got to double check. We're going to have a guest on Tuesday. So with that being said, I'll see you guys later. Don't forget to check out the mayoral debate with Curtis Lewer, Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo. You could judge for yourself these guys getting asked tough questions, how they're going to handle things, okay? So I'll see you later on till tonight. Thank you all for being in the comments. Thank you all for commenting, even those in the low information bubble. Thank you all. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you later tonight. I'm going to sign off here from South Florida, which is a sunny place for shady people. Now, I know you're tired of searching on the web for things and not getting the results you're looking for. I have something for you. FreeSpoke. FreeSpoke is a search engine that is all about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels, media bias, no intrusions, or data leaking or your data being taken from you. Porn free, none of those ads, unlimited, unbiased AI, deep dive podcast searching, and you can get it by going to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Use the same link to get a 35% discount on your premium subscription. What are you waiting for, folks? This is the way of the future. FreeSpoke.
Listen, there was a book that came out that Jasmine Ray wrote. And in the Daily News today, it was stated that there was a sexual action that happened in Borough Hall to be put in that book. And it wasn't. You're a dog sick person, man. You know that? You're a dog sick person. Your name was on the byline. And there's some of you that have been covering me. You guys could part. Let me do this. Y'all could depart. Y'all could depart. Some of you have been covering me for 3.5 years. Some of you are so sick and dark, and you're the leader of that. You're one of the most dark writers that I've ever seen in this city. And your personal sick vendetta and the sickness of how you think of over-sexualizing a black man, that in the book is stated that there was a sexual action in Borough Hall. That was never in the book. But that's typical of the sickness and the darkness of your sick mind. You're one of the sickest reporters I know. Go to the next question. You're a sick person.